Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. 4 episodes later, and we get back to the central story of Season 1, namely Vilgax's pursuit of the Omnitrix. At least, unlike shows like Adventure Time, we didn't have to wait so long, we almost forgot Vilgax existed. That might be a bit unfair to say, but it's how I feel. Episode 5, Hunted, is exactly what it sounds like. Ben has to avoid being hunted down by some alien bounty hunters, and it leads to a fairly heavy, action-oriented episode, besides the bit of training Ben gets at the start of the episode. And this being an action cartoon, it's not a bad thing. I won't say it's as exciting as past episodes have been, despite us being reminded Vilgax is still a threat, but you can tell the animators didn't shirk their duties when working on these scenes. As for story, we officially see Ben and company learn the official name of the Watch, and we possibly get some hints as to a second person's interest in the Omnitrix if Tetrax's dialogue is anything to go off of. Oh yeah, that's the bounty hunter who helps Ben. His name isn't revealed in the episode, I don't recall, so that's a bit of a spoiler for later. Speaking of later, the other 2 bounty hunters do end up returning several times throughout the franchise, which I never realized before until now. They're Crab and 6-6 respectively. I really enjoyed seeing how distinctive each bounty hunter was. Instead of them just being copied and pasted, Crab had, well, a crab claw and could drill into the ground with his legs, while 6-6 was, well, I guess he was the more basic of the 3. Still very cool, but not as visually interesting as the other 2. Unfortunately, despite the cool action scenes, I do think this episode isn't up to snuff with the previous 4 episodes. Again, the action was really cool, but the setting and some of the plot parts bored me a little. I did think it was nice to see Ben grow as a character, learning that brute force won't always win the day, but I almost feel like he's already been doing that in the other episodes. This episode made it feel like he only uses strong aliens when we've seen him use others. Either way, it was still a good episode, just not as good as episodes 1 through 4. And I think that's it from me. If you have any thoughts on this episode you'd like to share, feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. The 6th episode of Ben 10, Tourist Trap, has a lot to offer, from a prankster villain to good old-fashioned science. The episode has Ben and family heading to Sparksville, which seems to be the most boring tourist trap imaginable. I mean, they have a huge introduction for the world's largest ball of rubber bands. Of course, you'd think Ben would have learned by now that what seems boring at first often hides something sinister below the surface. Although in this case, it's less sinister and more extreme pranks from the town's resident alien trickster, Megawatt. I'm not entirely positive how it got trapped, but when Ben and Gwen release it, the episode really gets fun. This episode seemed like a throwback to the early days of animation with another dangerous trickster, the Gremlin, who would often mess with planes. In this instance, the Gremlin is an electrical alien that looks more like a battery than anything else, but the concept remains the same. Since the enemy this time around is not as physically intimidating as previous foes, until Act 3's giant planetarium fight, a lot of the episode is focused on trying to contain Megawatt or survive his idea of practical jokes, which is honestly a nice change of pace with all the previous episodes involving fisticuffs. And as comical as this little alien gremlin was, the real comedy delight of this episode had to be the mayor of Sparksville, Earl, with his incredibly deadpan reaction to everything around him.
Is it just me, or is there a lot of excitement today?
Another difference this episode has on the others is Gwen's involvement in not only freeing the villain, but also helping out quite a bit more than before. To be fair, her first idea releases dozens of megawatts, but her heart was in the right place. That has to count for something, right? No? Okay, well, I tried. As I said, there was quite a bit of science in this episode, from trapping the megawatts underground using a thermometer, or sealing them in a non-conductive prison like a giant fishbowl. In an age where a lot of what happens in cartoons relies heavily on cartoon logic, it's nice to look back and find some real science being used. Or, at worst, pseudoscience. In conclusion, this to me was a great episode full of fun comedy moments and some inventive, out-of-the-box thinking on the part of our protagonist. And who doesn't love to see their favorite characters acting intelligently? Those were my thoughts on this episode. Now let me hear yours in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Take care.